Technology of Youth Training for Entrepreneurship to Fulfill Sustainable Development Goals. A presentation by Lіudмyla Yershova, Svitlana Alieksieieva, Natalia Kulalaieva, Halyna Odnoroh, Mykola-Oleh Yershov. Dear participants of the conference, we would like to present our results in the following 6 stages, as you can see on the slide. About research, results of the research, the gist of the method, research methods, relevance of the problem, and conclusions. The object of our research was making a technology to prepare young people for entrepreneurial activity. The purpose is to substantiate and experimentally test the method of optimizing the implementation of pedagogical technologies for preparing young people for entrepreneurial activity in vocational education institutions. The method of optimization of introduction of pedagogical technologies of preparation of youth for entrepreneurial activity in professional institutions, as you can see on the slide, is split into 2 categories: pedagogical factors and dependent variables. And the box below is an outcome and algorithms of their application. The relevance of preparing young people for entrepreneurial activity is determined by the need recognized in society. The relevance of technology of youth preparation for entrepreneurship can be outlined in these 5 key points. The first is promotion of full and productive employment and dignified work for all. The second is promotion of continuous, comprehensive, sustainable economic growth of the country. The third, encouraging innovation and entrepreneurship. The fourth, ensuring the transition to rational models of consumption and production. The fifth, promotion of building a peaceful and open society in the interest of sustainable development. During the research, the following methods were used. The first is the method of document analysis, then survey. Over 400 students were surveyed. An expert evaluation, more than 40 teachers underwent this evaluation. And finally, statistical methods. The study was conducted on the basis of 2 NMCs and 7 vocational schools. So, as you can see on this slide, there are several institutions and several vocational education institutions that we can mention. State institutions are Vinnytsia Center for Vocational Education of the Processing Industry, Lviv Higher Vocational Art School, Odessa Higher Vocational School of Trade and Food Technology, Regional Center of Professional Education of Garment Production and Services of Kharkiv region, Cherkasy Professional Road Building Lyceum, Melitopol Multidisciplinary Center for Vocational Education and Higher Vocational School number 11 in Khmelnytsky, a Scientific Center of Vocational Education in Kharkiv region, and finally, Scientific Center for Vocational Education and Training of Engineering and Pedagogical Workers in Khmelnytsky region. The optimization method makes possible the 5 key points that we are going to outline. The first one is system implementation of pedagogical technologies. Next is optimal combination of tasks of education and personality development. Then rational and coordinated use of forms, methods, ways of pedagogical influence, elimination of duplication in the process of selection of factors of purposeful pedagogical influence on changing personality characteristics of students, and finally, and the identification of personal characteristics of students which are common for all implemented technologies. Regarding the gist of the method, So the essence of the method is to create an algorithm for optimizing the use of innovative technologies for the development of entrepreneurial competence of future professionals. There are four pedagogical technologies that were introduced. Development of business activity is the first. Development of entrepreneurial competence of future qualified workers with the use of self-management elements. Next is development of financial literacy of future professionals and development of entrepreneurial competence of future qualified workers in the project activity process, as you can see on the slide. So based on this, we meant to isolate the main dependent variables: values, motives, knowledge, skills, characteristics of self-concept of the student's personality, and all of these should be exerted pedagogical influence with the help of certain pedagogical factors. And we meant to define the factors of pedagogical influence common to the chosen technologies, directions, types, and forms of work. The introduction of pedagogical technologies was carried out in 4 stages. The first one is motivational and stimulating stage, during which basically the motivation of the teaching staff to innovate activities and selection of dependent variables and factors of pedagogical influence can be outlined as main factors. Strategic planning stage, it's educational and institution development strategy, making changes to educational and work programs, agreements with stakeholders. Next stage is organizational and coordination stage, creating organizational and pedagogical conditions, development of the program of actions, organization of coordination center. And finally, procedural reflexive stage. It consists of implementation of the array of measures, evaluation and adjustment of results, and reflection. The results of diagnosing the levels of formation of entrepreneurial competence. So comparisons of the results of diagnosing the development of entrepreneurial competence of future professionals obtained at the ascertaining and formative stages of the experiment confirmed the positive dynamics of change in all criteria. In general, a significant increase in the percentage of students with a sufficient level of entrepreneurial competence, namely the motivational criterion of the number of students motivated to entrepreneurial activity increased by an average of 8.06%. Improved value orientation of students to entrepreneurship. Increased student motivation to succeed, increase the number of students with a strong interest in entrepreneurship and a conscious attitude to it. So according to the cognitive criterion, the indicators improved by almost 19%. And these are students' awareness of the theory of entrepreneurship and their awareness of the procedural process of entrepreneurship increased. The level of economic, legal, psychological, digital knowledge of students to open and successfully run their own business. According to the activity criterion, the indicators increased by 10.1%. More students showed the ability to systematically research and develop the features and qualities necessary for a successful business. Create, administer, and use e-portfolio to promote professional careers. Plan, present, and implement business projects. According to personal criteria, the indicators improved by 23.5%. More students showed the ability to produce creative business ideas and awareness of possible risks, prognostic, and organizational skills, self-management skills. expert evaluation of the effectiveness of the introduction of pedagogical technologies using the optimization method. So an expert survey of teachers participating in the experiment, 8 creative groups with a total of 42 people, showed that the systematic integration of development technologies for their controlled implementation in educational activities of experimental educational institutions allowed the the 5 next key outlines. First, to simplify, they allowed to simplify the choice of factors of pedagogical influence by almost 39%. They allowed to increase the convenience of isolating dependent variables by 23.1%. They allowed to improve the system approach by 38.6%. The controllability improved by 51.6%, and the effectiveness of pedagogical influence increased by 25.4%. So there are signs of synergistic effect from the simultaneous implementation of several pedagogical innovations that could be easily identified. In conclusion, I would like to note that the process of technologization of the education provides not only the development of pedagogical innovations, but also the system implementation. The characterized method is a system of dependent variables, pedagogical factors, and the algorithm of their use designed to create a synergistic effect from the systematic use of the forms and methods of pedagogical influence on the personality and methods. Finally, the used method makes it possible to determine the readiness of the introduced technologies at the IRL 6 level. These are characterized by the availability of a team of motivated scientists, a finished innovative pedagogical product, and experimental confirmation of possible commercial prospects in the case of provision of quality scientific and methodological support of the introduction of innovations. Thank you for your attention.